The Virtuoso Flutists. Picking up on the last video in the series, as we discussed, in the 1740s, we start to see a shift in composition to the virtuoso flutist. Part of this shift included the solo concerto. This was the first step that let flutists travel around so European audiences could hear different characteristics of the flute from other nations and/or styles. In late 1777, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart received a commission from a surgeon to write 3 concertos and a few flute quartets. Not a flute quartet consort, but a string quartet replacing the first violin. So for flute, violin, viola, and cello. Mozart ended up sending the surgeon the G major concerto, the Andante in C, and the D major concerto, which was already written and performed on the oboe. Mozart just recycled it. In 1788, he also published a set of violin and piano duos, catalog numbers 301, 303, 305, and 306. He actually intended them to be for flute and piano. During this time, he also wrote the Flute and Harp Concerto, which goes down to the low C on the flute, indicating Mozart was fully aware of the keyed flutes that were popping up. In general, in the 1780s, there was a flute concerto craze. Professionals, amateurs, and court musicians all enjoyed the new form. Now we get to talk about some of the superstar flutists. The very first one we will talk about in this video is Friedrich Ludwig Dulon, known for his artistic expression on the flute. He was born in 1769, and from infancy he was blind. His blindness made him unable to hold an ordinary post, but by age 12 he was playing the flute, and of course, always by memory. 2 years later, he began touring. He was one of the very first flutists to make a living solely by going on tour. On tour, Dulon even played with C.P.E. Bach in Leipzig, duets with Tromlitz in Berlin, and numerous other performances, even spending 2 years in St. Petersburg. He was well liked not only for his playing, but his blindness, his youth, and good looks. Another big name was Louis Drouet, born in 1792. A native Amsterdammer, at age 22, was giving the Paris Conservatory's Jean-Louis Toulouse a run for his money as the best flutist in France. He studied at the conservatory starting at age 7. He also studied composition with Rijke. In 1807, he became the flute soloist for the King of the Netherlands and received a crystal flute. In 1816, John Quincy Adams, an amateur flutist, but also known as the 6th President of the United States, heard Drouet and wrote that his playing surpassed everything I have ever heard upon that instrument. Another important early flute soloist was Charles Nicholson. He was born in 1795 in Liverpool. As he became a young adult, he moved to London and was incredibly successful and earned posts at the Drury Lane Theatre, the Italian Opera, is a flute solo performer in itself, and so much more. In 1822, he is appointed professor of flute at the Royal Academy of Music. In 1822, he is appointed professor of flute at the Royal Academy of Music. He was known for his flute with large tone holes that made for a powerful tone. From Italy, Niccolò Paganini, the violinist, began touring Europe in the 1810s. He raised the standards of the violin so much that now the flute had to compete for audience attention. The flutist then tried all sorts of special effects. They often wrote brilliant theme and variations and fantasies. Nicholson was especially known for his special effects like the glissando, gliding from note to note. Theobald Boehm, yes, we are there, the inventor of the Boehm flute, was originally inspired by Nicholson. Boehm was a virtuoso flutist like none before or since, and his flutes are the main topic of the next video.